What is behind the unchecked mass immigration into the UK? Is this the death of British culture as we know it? Why are our leaders simply turning a blind eye to the crisis of the century in front of them? Welcome back to Breakpoint. Today, we rip the lid off the Islamist revolution reshaping Britain's capital. Brace yourselves as we expose the drastic changes in the UK's demographics and the huge risk no one seems to be talking about. We're going to look into why this uncontrolled mass immigration could be the trigger to make the country explode, and the scary economic and political truth behind this shift. We'll take you on a journey through a city in flux. We'll explore the clash of cultures, the strain on public services, and the simmering tensions that threaten to boil over. But most importantly, we'll ask the question on everyone's mind. Is this the end of London as we know it, or the birth of a new, radicalised Islamic city? Stay tuned, because what happens next could change the face of Britain forever. With Starmer at the helm, Labour is steering the country towards a socio-political disaster, the consequences of which could change the fabric of British society for the worse. The Islamic population in Britain has significantly increased in recent years. Let's take a look at the numbers. In 2011, the census showed Muslims in England and Wales standing at about 4.8% of the population. It may not sound like many, but that was up from just 3% 10 years before. And now the figure has hit 6% across all of the UK and 15% in Greater London. Even more frightening, however, is that with the majority of those Muslims being young people, the projected population is expected to hit 17% by 2050. What is interesting is exactly where those communities are setting up shop. It is not evenly distributed throughout the nation, instead mere pockets. They are building their populations up in larger cities such as London, Birmingham and Bradford. As far as inner city neighbourhoods are concerned, the Muslims are already a majority on the UK streets. This concentration has resulted in some speaking about parallel societies. The idea is that some Muslim communities may be living somewhat apart from the rest of British society. This definitely doesn't help ease the tension and could be part of the spark that triggers this societal problem to explode. The rapid population growth in certain areas is straining local services. Schools, hospitals and housing are struggling to keep up with increased demand. The central government is utterly blind, and local governments are in complete chaos, failing to grasp that if they don't act fast, some neighbourhoods will soon reach a breaking point where public services will collapse, plunging the quality of life for all residents into crisis. Britain has always been diverse, but growing Muslim communities have introduced new perspectives on cultural values, gender roles and family structures. These are views that have clashed with long-standing British culture and tradition, and have been viewed as a threat. With Britain being a traditional Christian country, it has created tension with the Islamic community, wanting to stamp their own culture into UK society. For white British Christians, this is going to be concerning. It creates a real tension, particularly in smaller, more local communities, where the growing Muslim population looks like a genuine threat to culture and communities. And the most concerning part being that the government has turned a complete blind eye to the invasion of UK communities. Starmer's immigration policies are turning the UK into a revolving door for low-skilled migrants, while the nation's top talent is leaving in pursuit of better opportunities in countries like Australia, New Zealand and the US. This brain drain is creating a void increasingly filled by individuals less equipped to revitalise the country's struggling industries and innovation potential. One of the most pressing concerns with this so-called Islamic revolution of the UK is the security concerns. With an increase in Islamic extremism rising in Europe over the last 10 years, it looks obvious to be one of the biggest threats to national security in the UK. And the consequence that this has on relationships between Muslims and non-Muslims within the UK is immense. While Muslims are subject to possible discrimination and prejudices, non-Muslims are left feeling unsafe within their own neighbourhoods. It leaves a sense of uncertainty within the political sphere, with both sides feeling the effects. With the recent stabbings in Southport, England just last month, it is beginning to cause a nationwide stir about the lack of control placed on the mass immigration by Keir Starmer's British government. This leads into the challenges for law enforcement and intelligence services. They have to work out how to keep everyone safe without being heavy-handed in terms of civil liberties and not discriminating. With thousands of people from all over the world coming into the UK, how can they make sure they get it right without blindly walking us into a national security crisis? The mass immigration into the UK has even brought us right to the verge of a political crisis right in front of our eyes. And the most controversial of those positions is that of Sharia law in Britain. While some of the Muslims would like to see the aspects of the Sharia acknowledged in the UK legal system, and especially when things such as family law are taken into consideration, this has been met with strong opposition by British people. There has also been apprehension about the way Muslims vote. With block voting, there is some fear that the weight of votes in areas with considerable populations of Muslims will swing their way, essentially cancelling out the votes of British people. The left's policies may appear humanitarian, but a closer look reveals they're driven more by political strategy. By letting in lots of low-skilled workers, they're giving a big business cheap labour and potentially creating future left-wing voters. This gives leftist politicians a chance to virtue signal while labelling their opponents as bigots. This isn't simply about humanitarian values. It's viewed as a deliberate effort to reshape the UK's demographic and political landscape under the pretense of open-door generosity. When it comes to education and social mobility, there is an uncomfortable truth which we have to address. There are a number of disturbing trends. In many local areas, there are underachieving Muslim students compared to their peers. This is particularly so for some ethnic groups within the Muslim population. It is a complex issue where factors such as poverty, language barriers, and cultural expectations will all play a part. Muslim faith schools are a topic of debate. Supporters say these schools protect students from bad influences and provide good support. Critics worry they might make it harder for students to mix with other communities. In some areas, language is a challenge. When most adults don't speak English well, children may struggle to learn it fluently. This could affect their education and job options later on. The UK requires comprehensive integration programs for immigrants that go beyond basic language or job training. These programs should instill an understanding of British values and social norms, while also providing a pathway for newcomers to become active, valued members of their communities. Now, the question on everyone's lips after seeing the severity of this crisis is, what happens next? The UK must reassess its immigration policies to align with the nation's capacity and strategic interests. This involves implementing more rigorous and selective immigration criteria, focusing on individuals whose skills match key sectors in the economy, such as technology, healthcare, and engineering. The goal isn't to exclude people, but to ensure that those who arrive can integrate successfully and contribute meaningfully. It's about improving the quality of life for everyone, not just increasing population numbers. The current relations between ethnic groups have hit boiling point, and after a string of events during the summer leaving tensions high, who knows what the future may hold? Public opinion is deeply split. While average citizens and white-collar professionals see it as a move toward compassion, the vast majority of centrists and blue-collar conservatives perceive it as a dangerous gamble with the country's resources and security, believing the government is putting political advantage ahead of the well-being of its people. If you found value in this video, please give it a like, share it with your family and friends so they're aware of what's going on, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click the bell icon for more insights on Britain's Muslim immigration problems and more. Thanks for watching.